So over the past few months, HYBE CEO Lee Jaesang has done a lot of things. He has joined the Recording Academy, delivered a keynote at the Hungyong CEO Forum in Jeju Island, and he appeared at a Korea-Vietnam cultural talks in Seoul, and taken part in the APAC cultural dialogue in Gyeongju. Meanwhile, Hitman Bang, or Chairman Bang Si-hyuk has kept a lower profile, even taking no base salary this year. So is HYBE deliberately shifting visibility from Bang Si-hyuk to Lee Jaesang? This video breaks down what these moves mean for HYBE's dual leadership model. So, when I was looking at HYBE America's reshuffle announcement, which I made a video about, I noticed the line that Lee Jaesang, HYBE's CEO, had been added as a new board member. So, seeing his name there made me think about a few updates from the past several weeks that I never got around to covering because there have been a lot of other issues to cover on the channel. So I figured I would put them together in a separate video that you are watching. And over the just past couple of months, Lee Jaesang has been named a professional member of the Recording Academy, and yeah, he's delivered a speech at HanKyung CEO Forum in Jeju on behalf of Hitman Bang. So we're going to talk about all this, and taken together, these moments say a lot about the role that he is carving out, both inside HYBE and on the global stage. So one of the most interesting updates came on August 22nd, when HYBE announced that Lee Jaesang had been selected as a professional member of the Recording Academy. And for anyone not familiar, the Recording Academy is an organization that runs the Grammys. And it's been around since 1957. And its membership is made of artists, producers, engineers, executives, and other people working across the music industry. And now the category Lee Jaesang was accepted into, the professional member, is not the same as voting member. Voting members are artists and producers who actually get to cast ballots that decide Grammy winners. But professional members still play an important role. They can submit entries for a Grammy consideration and even propose changes to the Academy's rules. And the key point here is that membership isn't automatic. It goes through an application and peer review process, and you have to be recognized for your contributions to the industry. So why does this matter? For Lee Jaesang, it's a form of validation from the U.S. music establishment. He's not just seen as a CEO of a Korean company that happens to have global reach. Rather, he's being acknowledged as someone who's shaping the industry at an international level. And when you think about HYBE's ambitions in the US and the ongoing debate over whether the K-pop system can really take root in Western markets, having the company's CEO officially linked with the Recording Academy feels like a symbolic milestone. And it also fits with Lee Jaesang's career trajectory. He joined HYBE back in 2018 when it was still Big Hit Entertainment, and he rose through the ranks as Chief Strategy Officer, CSO, and later as the head of HYBE America. And he was closely involved in major deals like the acquisition of Ithaca Holdings, and has been central to HYBE's expansion outside of Korea. So being accepted as a Recording Academy member almost feels like the American industry's way of acknowledging those contributions. And of course, it's not just Lee Jaesang. Around the same time, a few weeks ago, right, HYBE also announced that a group of 16 artists and producers, including Bumzu, Zico, 17's Uzi and Vernon, TXT Yeonjun, ENHYPEN's Chungwon, LISTRF and Hoyunjin, Cat's Eye members, and producers like Slow Rabbit, Spring Boy, and Wonder Kid. These guys had joined the Academy as new voting members, which I have made a video about, and this is the thumbnail for the video. So go check it out if you're interested. And of course, BTS members and Hitman Bang and P-Dog were already on that list from before. And that means that HYBE now has a growing network of voices inside the Recording Academy, from the artist level all the way up to the CEO. And put together, it's a signal of how deeply HYBE is embedding itself into the US music ecosystem. Not just as a foreign company trying to break in, but as a stakeholder in the institutions that shape the industry. Now, then on July 16th, Lee Jaesang delivered a keynote speech at the HanKyung CEO Summer Forum in Jeju Island. And this is one of Korea's major business gatherings, drawing top executives and policymakers each year. And interestingly, the slot was originally expected to feature Si-hyuk, but for various reasons, HYBE decided Lee should step in and represent the company instead. And one of the various reasons being, Si-hyuk's names being all over the Korean media as they have been attacking Si-hyuk for the quote-unquote HYBE IPO controversy, right? So in his talk, Lee Jaesang was strikingly candid. He opened with a story from his time living in Los Angeles, and recalling how many of his friends in the entertainment industry didn't actually think of 오징어 게임, Squid Game, as Korean content. He said they saw it simply as a Netflix property. And his point was that just because something originates in Korea doesn't mean Korea automatically owns the cultural credit or the long-term benefit. Now that rings a bell because nowadays something bigger than Squid Game came up, right? That is Kpop Demon Hunters. So yeah, I think his comment becomes notable if you think about the whole debate around Kpop Demon Hunters, whether Korea can benefit from the popularity that it has achieved. And Lee Jaesang warned against what he called a kind of national pride mindset. And he argued that the industry needs tough self-objectivity, being objective, if K-pop and Korean content want to avoid being remembered as a passing trend. And he backed this up with numbers. According to last year's data, K-pop accounted for just 4.5% of the global music market, compared to 24.4% for pop and nearly 18% for R&B and hip-hop. In other words, the genre is influential but still relatively small in market share. And Lee Jaesang stressed that if K-pop is to last, it can't just rely on a few mega hits. It needs a system that can consistently produce new stars and expand the fan base as a business model, not just as a cultural export, so to say. And from there, CEO Lee laid out HYBE's growth philosophy, which he framed as multi-home, multi-genre, and multi-label. And that phrase has, many of you might be familiar with the phrase, that concept. And the multi-home idea means that HYBE doesn't see Korea as its only base. It has deliberately built footholds in the US, in Japan, and in Latin America to treat those regions as extensions of its home market. And of course, multi-genre reflects HYBE's push into Latin music, country music, and hip-hop, largely through acquisitions and partnerships. And multi-label means operating a network of labels, Big Hit Music, Playlist, Source Music, Belief Lab, and others, to diversify risk and continuously generate acts across different styles. What have I missed? YX labels and Zico's label, right? With Boy Next Door, and then of course there's also Door. Have I missed anything? Let me check again. All right, and Lee Jaesang's message was pretty clear. K-pop's future. Oh, by the way, KOZ Entertainment. That's an agency for Boy Next Door. So Lee Jaesang's message was pretty clear. K-pop's future lies in becoming a system, not a trend. And if it's just consumed as the next big thing, it could risk going the way of Hong Kong cinema or Japanese manga, which once dominated globally but later lost their footing. And those are the examples that he himself gave. And HYBE's strategy, as he described it, is designed to avoid that fate by institutionalizing the ability to create stars and nurture fandoms and expand internationally. I wonder how you think about the points that he made here. I'm curious. So comment if you're willing to. Now, it was a notable moment because it showed Lee Jaesang stepping into the spotlight, not just as a corporate manager, but as a thought leader in Korea's cultural economy. He wasn't given a safe speech filled with cliches. He was challenging the industry to look at itself honestly, and he was positioning HYBE as a company that already has a plan to move beyond short-term hype. And yeah, originally it was supposed to Hitman Bang, Chairman Pang Xiao, who was supposed to give a keynote speech, but he replaced him, and I think he filled in his shoes pretty well. But oh well. Now, fast forward to August 26th, and Lee Jaesang was busy again, this time at the APAC high-level dialogue on cultural industries in Gyeongju. And the event was hosted by Korea's Ministry of Culture, Sports, and Tourism and brought together ministers, senior officials, and industry leaders from 21 member economies. And it was designed to highlight the role of cultural industries in economic growth and to foster cooperation across the Asia-Pacific region. Now, the welcome dinner ahead of the main conference became something of a showcase for Korea's cultural leadership. JYP, Park Jin-young of JYP Entertainment gave a presentation speaking about K-pop as one of the most powerful cultural forces in the world today. And alongside him were executives from SM, YG, CJ ENM, and of course, HYBE's Lee Jaesang. And their presence on the same stage highlighted how Korean entertainment companies are no longer just competing with each other, hopefully not, but are also collectively representing Korea on the international cultural stage. And Lee Jaesang didn't make as many direct headlines as JYP that evening, Park Jin-young, but his attendance mattered, I think, because it placed HYBE at the table alongside government ministers and industry leaders from across the region, and reinforcing the idea that the company is an essential player in Korea's creative economy. And in the context of HYBE's ongoing global expansion, his presence at APAC signaled that the company isn't just chasing commercial growth. It is also being positioned as part of Korea's cultural diplomacy, so to say. And events like APAC don't deliver immediate headlines about new artists or albums, of course not, but they matter in another way. They show who gets invited to sit in the room when culture, economics, and politics intersect. So by appearing in Gyeongju, I think Lee Jaesang, as CEO, demonstrated that HYBE intends to be seen not just as an entertainment company, but as a cultural player, actor with influence across the Asia-Pacific region. Now, just a couple of weeks before the APAC event, on August 11th, Lee Jaesang was also present at the Korea-Vietnam Cultural Industry Development Cooperation meeting in Seoul. That was long. Korea-Vietnam Cultural Industry Development Cooperation meeting that happened in Seoul. And this gathering wasn't as high profile internationally as APAC, but it carried real weight in terms of regional partnerships. The meeting brought together Korea's Minister of Culture, Sports, and Tourism, and also Choi Hee-jung. I think it's Choi Hee-jung. Choi Hee-young. He's the Minister of Culture, Sports, and Tourism, and Vietnam's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Culture, along with about 40 industry leaders from both countries. And the focus was on building sustainable collaboration in areas like games, animation, and entertainment, which are industries that both governments see as engines of future growth. And Lee Jaesang's participation placed HYBE at the center of these discussions, alongside executives from like Krafton Game Company and Carriersoft. He contributed perspectives on how Korea's cultural industries could align with Vietnam's fast-developing media landscape. Vietnam has become Korea's third largest trading partner after the US and China, actually, and cultural industries are now a key part of that relationship. And for HYBE, which already treats Japan, the US, and Latin America as core home markets, Vietnam could represent both a promising consumer base and also a potential production partner in the long run. And while the headlines naturally focus on the diplomatic remarks exchanged between the two governments, I think Lee Jae-sang's presence in this case also adds a layer of business credibility to the event. It showed that HYBE, isn't just thinking about markets where K-pop is already strong. It's also paying attention to emerging cultural economies, aligning itself with Korea's diplomatic strategy, and positioning the company as a bridge between established and developing markets. And that also, reminds me of the fact that HYBE has recently established a regional base in China and considering expanding into Indian market as well, right? Now, photos from this event showed Lee Jae-sang seated right beside Korea's Minister of Culture, Hyung, right here. And the minister even posted on his official Twitter account, X account, highlighting the importance of cultural cooperation between the two countries and pressing hopes for sustainable partnership going forward. But almost immediately, the images triggered a wave of negative comments from a vocal segment of New Jeans fans. And I'm not going to generalize, but some vocal segments of New Jeans fans who have been hostile toward HYBE in recent months. And under the minister's post, some users accused HYBE of monopolizing the Korean entertainment industry, while some others revived, quote-unquote controversies about, a lot of different stuff like internal reports, corporate strategy, or, like artist disputes, namely New Jeans disputes. And few people even used like pretty negatively charged language, calling HYBE's leadership xenophobic or racist, specifically targeting Lee Jae-sang for simply being present at the event. Well, to anyone familiar with these issues, these kinds of reactions won't come as a surprise. Because a portion of New Jeans fandom has been highly critical of HYBE since the New Jeans mini-gen dispute, and for them, almost any public appearance by a HYBE executive become a flashpoint. And in this case, their criticism wasn't really about the Korea-Vietnam meeting itself. The gathering was focused on cultural cooperation between two governments and included representatives from a wide range of industries, from gaming to animation. And HYBE's participation made perfect sense, given its role as one of Korea's leading cultural exporters. I see some commenters, even spreading false rumors and fake news. This is not good. Now, the backlash from these people then tells us more about the ongoing tension between HYBE and certain fans of New Jeans than it does about the actual events. And for policymakers and business leaders in the room, HYBE's presence was not controversial, I don't think. Hopefully not. On the contrary, it was a logical choice because Vietnam has become Korea's, third largest trading partner, again, like I mentioned, and cultural industries are increasingly recognized as part of that economic relationship. So having HYBE CEO there alongside other executives like other major companies like Krafton's leadership highlights the importance of entertainment in Korea's broader strategy. And what the minister's tweet really showed was the government's efforts to frame cultural industries as a national growth engine, and HYBE, by extension, as one of the companies carrying that mission abroad. So these hostile comments, while they could be loud online, I don't think they would change the underlying reality. In fact, some commenters pushed back, noting that these negative voices were a small activist segment of fandom whose grievances are not shared by the general public. And for Lee Jae-sang, the optics of sitting, beside the cultural minister at a bilateral meeting are far more consequential than a few angry posts on social media. because it places him and HYBE squarely in the role of cultural ambassador, part of Korea's effort to position its entertainment companies as partners in diplomacy and international economic cooperation. And that ultimately is what will matter as HYBE continues to expand its presence in Southeast Asia and beyond in the coming future. We'll have to see. By the way, another point worth noting came just days later. On August 22nd, when Korea's financial disclosures revealed the compensation of top entertainment executives. So for the first half of 2025, Park Jin-young, JY Park of JYP Entertainment, ranked number 1, earning about 22.3 billion Korean won. 22, 22억. So that will become 2.23 billion Korean won. Mostly through performance bonuses tied to JYP's strong results. Lee Jae-sang appeared in 5th place with 7억. So that's 100만, 1000만억, 10억. This is always confusing. Sorry. So that's 0.792 billion. How much is it in 100만, 1000만억, 10억? 그러니까 100만. Why am I doing 100만? 100만, 1000만억, 10억. 10 million? 100 million? 100 million, 100만, 1000만억. Okay, sorry. 792 million Korean won, that is. And almost entirely from base salary with a relatively modest bonus. Okay, so he placed, Lee Jae-sang, CEO of HYBE, placed 5th. And another interesting detail was Bang Si-hyuk's absence from the disclosure list. That doesn't mean that he disappeared from HYBE's leadership, of course not. It's because he set his base salary to 0, following through on his message about pay for performance and responsibility and management. Yeah, he's been doing that. They've been doing that. And in other words, he's chosen to only to be compensated when HYBE delivers results. It's a symbolic gesture, but also a reminder of the different roles he and Lee Jae-sang now play. Bang Si-hyuk continues to set the creative and philosophical direction for the company, while Lee Jae-sang is the one showing up as HYBE's day-to-day operator, executive figure, and now public representative on the global stage. And the numbers also reinforce the idea that HYBE is rewarding Lee Jae-sang for management stability and long-term strategy, rather than short-term bonuses. And in a year when HYBE still reported solid growth, with operating profit up more than 30%, Lee Jae-sang's placement on the list cements him alongside JY Park and Yang Hyun-seok of YG as one of the highest profile executives in the Korean entertainment industry. So I thought that was pretty interesting information. So, looking back over the past few months, it's notable how often Lee Jae-sang has surfaced in places that matter. Again, from being named a professional member of the Recording Academy to standing in for a Bang Si-hyuk with the keynote speech in Jeju, and to appearing beside the cultural minister at the Korea. Right here. Beside the cultural minister at the Korea-Vietnam meeting, bilateral meeting, and then sitting around APEC dialogue in Gyeongju. So it shows that he has steadily become a visible representative of HYBE on the global stage. And the bigger picture is that HYBE seems to be betting on a dual leadership model. Bang Si-hyuk as the creative visionary and symbolic founder, and Lee Jae-sang as an institutional diplomat and operator. It also looks like there is strategy behind how visible each of them is. Bang Si-hyuk has been under constant pressure from the press and from hostile fandoms, as you might be aware of, and often dragged into controversies whether or not he's directly involved. So by taking a step back, by taking a backseat, so to say, on public appearances, and even setting his own salary at 0, HYBE may be trying to lower his visibility, and Bang Si-hyuk himself might be trying to lower his visibility and take away some of the easiest targets for criticism. And in turn, Perhaps Lee Jaesang has become the one who shows up in forums, conferences, and boardrooms, carrying the flag for HYBE in ways that attract less personal hostility. And whether this balance will hold is still an open question. But right now, I think HYBE has two leaders playing complementary roles on different fronts. One deliberately kept in the background and the other moving steadily into the foreground. Whether this trend continues, we'll have to see. But let me open up to you before I wrap. As always, do you think HYBE is deliberately shifting more visibility onto Lee Jaesang, the CEO, to shield Si-hyuk from constant media and fandom attacks? And how effective do you think this dual leadership model is, with him and Bang in the background as creative visionary and Lee Jaesang stepping forward as institutional diplomat, so to say? And more broadly, is it better for HYBE's future if Si-hyuk stays less visible for now? Let me know your thoughts by writing comments, and as always, let's stay positive, respectful, and classy. Thank you guys. Peace and love. Bye-bye.